I'm the Book Baron. Welcome in, everybody. I am here with you today to wrap up August and all of the reading that I did, which was a bit of a rough month. I didn't do a ton of physical reading. It just was not happening this month. So a lot of what I'm going to be talking about was stuff that I read on audio. It's not that I'm in a reading slump. I hesitate to say that. I'm having massive focus issues because there's so much going on in my private life. It's taking a lot to get sucked into a book. And so the result is it's a lot easier for me to read on audio and not as fun for me to read with my eyeball holes. But despite all of that, I did find some winners because I did read some really killer audiobooks, and what I did read physically, I really did enjoy. So with all of that, let's just jump into the books, shall we? So the first book that I have to talk to you about is Arcana Society. I guess this confirms the rumors that I am in fact illiterate. Good God. This is Arcana Academy. I'm not even sure that that's pronounced correctly, but that is in fact the title in some capacity. It's closer than Arcana Society. What the hell is that about? And this is by Elise Kova. This is a high fantasy, enemies to lovers, and I would say that this is more fantasy romance than romantasy. We have our heroine Clara, and Clara has survived by being a part of the criminal underworld. So basically she's got some quick hands, and she also happens to have a very dangerous talent, which is inking tarot cards, which is something that is really only supposed to be done in very select places that are controlled by the government. And then things go sideways for our friend here. She gets caught and is sentenced to live out basically the rest of her life in this very brutal prison. Just when it seems like all hope is lost, Prince Kalis decides to get her out. Well, it's hard to explain. Basically, girlfriend kind of gets herself out, but also Kalis kind of set it up. His proposal, because he is the head master of the Arcana? I'm not good with fantasy words. He's like, look, you are going to be part of this academy that I am the headmaster of. We're going to be engaged. That's right. There's fake dating in here, or fake engaging, something like that. Because he wants to be able to keep an eye on her. He needs her talent for some stuff, but also he kind of can't have it done through official channels. Now our girl Clara finds herself trapped in this really high stakes game of politics and deadly magic. She has to figure out who she can trust when everyone is scheming, and maybe fall in love along the way. My thoughts on this. So the last time that I read Elise Kova, I read A Deal with the Elf King, and I was like, corny, fun, but corny. And so I was like, okay, I kind of wrote her off. But this, wowie wow wow.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
The writing definitely had me hooked. I love the world building. I had a very distinct sense of time and place. It had some unique elements without feeling like it was like trying too hard to do something different. I really liked the heroine. She's extremely strategic. She's well thought out with a lot of her actions. The hero definitely has this intriguing, dark, and sinister feel to him. It really made for some really great tension between the two because they're in some ways kind of reluctant allies. And it does give an us versus the world sort of feeling, but I have to tell you, I was a little bit bored. It just felt like once we got the setup going, which was so exciting, so intriguing, we're getting so much information, things felt like they really slowed down. It's not that we weren't getting scenes. It's not like there wasn't information being dumped. I just simply didn't care about any of it. I feel like some of the delivery of some of this just didn't feel that compelling, which is unfortunate because I think there's a lot that's really cool here, and I will continue on with the series because I do want answers, and I do think that there's a lot of potential. Giving this one a rating of 3.5 stars. There's so much to love, but I think like the boredom factor really played into my rating. Next up, I read One with My Eyeballs, 24690 by A.A. Dark. This I would categorize as a horror-mance. Don't really think this is a dark romance, but some people will talk about this as a pitch black romance. I don't know. It's up for your interpretation. All that to say, it's really, really dark. So definitely check triggers on this one. In this world, there's like a secret society of these masters, and they are like very elite, have tons of money, come from different places within society. They're politicians, they're movie stars, but then they come to this like secret society compound where they can do whatever they want to certain people who are available for purchase. Catch my drift? See what's going on? And they have a variety of different needs. I'm really talking around this so that YouTube doesn't get mad at me. They sometimes want to do things of a violent nature, sometimes of an edible nature, hence the horror, sometimes of a sexual nature. And this is where we find our girl, slave 24690. Nailed it. She had a master. She kind of had like some sort of stability with. She had basically grown up with him and kind of viewed him in a positive way. He wasn't wasn't the worst of the worst, and so I think she just kind of felt grateful, but he is unalived by someone, and we don't know who. What this means is that she no longer has a master, and she goes up for sale again. So she goes back to Slave Row, and she was like, oh my God, my life is over. I could go to one of the guys that wants to quite literally eat me like a snack. Not in the fun way, in the no longer alive way. Think Donner Party. But anyways, she's feeling bereft. She's hopeless. She's pretty fearful. Guards are pretty violent. There aren't a lot of rules here. Her fate's kind of left up to this auction and whoever the highest bidder is. However, she has caught the eye of some certain masters, and one in particular is quite high up in the ranks and just might be her ticket out. Initially, you're kind of like, oh, a romance in the darkest of places. No, you get 3 point of views. So it has kind of like a love triangle-ish quality to it, but I don't want to spoil anything because that's half the fun of this book, honestly, is figuring out what actually is going on because there's lots of scheming afoot. So at first I was like, okay, lots of threats of assault, like it is dark, don't get me wrong, but it's more on par with the Master series. And then we hit our first stomach-turning scene about a third of the way in, and I was like, oh, there were some gross things mentioned, so there was that. And then halfway in, unexpected turn. What I just talked about, that's not even the plot anymore. And then it gets real dark. It gets real dark. It just takes a nosedive. Disgusting descriptions. But our girl is strategic. She is intelligent. She is smart. And I love her. It does end on a bit of a light cliffhanger. And all I'm going to say about that ending is good for her. And I support women's wrongs. This was 5 stars for me. I loved this. This kept me engaged. I was so intrigued. I definitely want to read more. I do need a break, however. Next up, I have Veiled Innocent, and this is by Ella Frank, and this is a student teacher, more of a romantic suspense or thriller quality to it than it is like fully like a romance. Basically, we have a dual timeline here, and in the past, the heroine is having this whirlwind romance with this new teacher, and she is pursuing him. We also get his perspective in that timeline, but then we get a present timeline, and in the present timeline, she's in a psychiatric ward, and something has happened that involves the teacher and the police. And she is being interviewed by a psychiatrist or a psychologist, I don't really remember which, are trying to get out of her what actually happened because she is refusing to speak. This reminds me a little bit, not in the actual story itself, but in the structure of the story, it reminds me of The Five by Lily White. Got that thriller feel. In that present timeline, we're getting that interview component, but then the heroine in the past timeline reminds me a bit of the heroine from Unrequited by Saffron A. Kent. Like you kind of know something's like a little bit off with her, but she's still very empathetic. In the past timeline especially, we quickly flip point of views within a scene. It adds this very frenetic quality to the romance, and it's so hyper-focused. Like, you know, you're aware that she has parents, you know that there's a bigger life, but like we're focused really tight in on the romance for the most part. And then there is this kind of suspenseful element because like you pop back into the current timeline and you're like, wait, what did happen with them? Like, wait, what is going on? What is this building to? This one I gave a rating of 4 stars. And fun fact, the audio is on KU, so enjoy. Okay, next up are my vlog books, and I am gonna try and go so fast. Speedy Gonzalez. I will link the vlog if you want to check out all of my in-depth thoughts, but for the first book in the vlog, we had Phantom by Greer Rivers. This is a dark mafia retelling of Phantom of the Opera. And while I wish I could say I do not need to explain what's going on because we all know what Phantom of the Opera is, I have been kindly reminded that I'm crusty and that not everybody grew up being obsessed with this. Basically, we have Scarlet, and she has had some mental health issues in the past, but they're mostly under control at the moment. She has pursued a life of opera despite some of life's setbacks, but she's starting to think that her mental health maybe isn't as under control as she thought because she's getting some letters, she's getting some sheet music. So she doesn't really want to cause a stir because they're not actively causing harm to her, and she doesn't really want to worry people. But it turns out she in fact has a star. And that is our hero. He is from very high up in a crime family that has connections to the opera house. So he's kind of in and around her often, not necessarily with her knowing, because he's silently watching from the shadows primarily. He basically had witnessed a while back something that she had done and was like, I am intrigued by this girl. And when another crime family starts to kind of insert themselves into her lives and they're in like a whole turf war situation, he steps out of the shadows to more actively protect her. Rapid fire thoughts. This reads like a dark romance that is meant for people that don't really like dark romance, so do with that what you will. I feel like the characters were underdeveloped and a lot of the writing was over-explanatory rather than letting the story unfold in front of you. Overall, I didn't really like this one. I'm gonna be honest. I give it a rating of 3 stars though, because I can understand why other people might like this book. Next up we had In the Shadows by J.A. Owenby, and this is a dark romance. It's got a serial unaliver, we've got obsession, age gap, we've got a cat and mouse game. There's a lot going on in this book. So I'm gonna need you to buckle in for this abstract blurb synopsis. We have Ella, and Ella's life just keeps getting more complicated. So it starts out that she has a sick family member and she needs to help pay their medical bills, and her full-time job doesn't really allow her to be able to do that, so she has turned to cam work. The cam work has then led to her catching the eye of a very rich man who was like, I would like to see you do things to yourself in person. Around the same time, she finds out the Portland serial unaliver is active and unaliving people in her area, and then she meets a lovely Aussie bartender that she's got great chemistry with, and then she finds out someone is stalking her because there's a man that's creeping around outside her house that's got a mask on. And with so many men that have recently entered her life, there's a lot of options about who this could be. This tried way too hard and just dropped the ball on a lot of different pieces. Like that cam girl stuff doesn't even come back. Like it's just in the intro. The dialogue is diabolical. It sounds like a bad Disney Channel script or what aliens think humans sound like when they talk to one another. Unclear as to which, but it is one of them. The heroine also reads young. Despite the fact that canonically she is supposed to be in her late 20s, she reads like she is like freshly 21. Obviously, I wasn't having a good time with a lot of this, but then the plot kept me reading who could be coming after her. Who is this man? Except for I figured it out and I literally had to bleep myself in the vlog because I predicted the ending. The thing that really tanked this from like being like a 3-star was like, it's not really that well done, but like, it's fine. It's not diabolically bad. Mental health of one of the MCs never gets addressed at any point, and it's made to seem like a fine thing that no one got them professional help, and I hate that. So 2 stars. Final book that I read was The Danger You Know by Lily White, and this is a dark romance with, once again, a stalker. If I didn't make that clear already, which I don't think I did, this was a vlog about stalking romances. I am emotionally really well, and I wanted to read a bunch of those. I will not be taking questions at this time, thank you so much. But what's this book about? Because that's what we're really here for. The hero is a hitman. He just takes his contracts, gets his paycheck. He's doing it for the money. He has his latest hit, which happens to be the heroine's dad. She wasn't supposed to be home, and then he carries out the hit and then is like, oh no, I can hear her crying, and feels like maybe he needs to protect her because he finds out she's alone in the world. Her mother has also passed, so like she is nobody. But that also involves him eating all the same food, watching all the same movies, engaging in all the same hobbies. Now, eventually she gets married and his work should be done, right? She's got someone else that can help kind of like take care of her and protect her in life. She's an adult that can stand on her own 2 feet, right? Wrong. He notices something is not quite right, and he ends up inserting himself into her life to try and shake things up because he's like, you need to live, girl. But things don't quite go as he expected because he comes more and more and more invested. This was the winner from the vlog. Lily White she gets inside the heads of her characters and really just fundamentally understands them in a way that I feel like the other 2 books just didn't happen. I feel like the why behind the stock was a lot more baked out, made a lot of sense. I mean, not that I know anything about why someone would stalk another person, because that is sick and twisted in real life. In the book format, in the storytelling format, this made a lot more sense than the other 2. Hero's obsession was very layered, it was intense, without like trying too hard to be like, oh, shocking, oh my god, he's doing so much. And there's real tension because not only is he stalking her, he unalived her dad. How do we get these 2 together? We have a lot to deal with. You know what I'm saying? I give this one a rating of 4 stars, and now we shall move on. Hopefully that was rapid fire-ish. Guys, my throat is starting to hurt. I think I have some allergies or something going on, and my throat has been raw. But it's like too warm to drink tea or anything like that because like it's 80 degrees in my house right now. You can't drink hot liquids when that's going on. All right, I suppose I'll get back to the books instead of yapping about things that are not important. Oh no, shoot. I don't want to talk about this book. Next, we have to talk about Descent by Sam Mariano. This is a dark romance. There's lots of non-con in it, and it's not quite captive, and it's not quite stalker, but it's like kind of both also. It's complicated. Our heroine is at her bachelorette party. No, incorrect. Lies. She's at her friend's bachelorette party. She gets a phone call who she thinks is, wait, no, how do I phrase this? That she thinks is from, nailing it, ooh, I'm getting it, guys, that she thinks is from her latest ex that they ended on like okay terms. He had been asking earlier in the night via text if he could help her, or no, if, oh my god, I'm fucking this up so bad, you guys, if she could help him out with something. But it turns out it's not him on the phone, it's his boss. And his boss is like, hey, I'm sending a car to your location. And she's like, this kind of seems like a bad choice to get in this car. However, she's a little bit drunk, so like, you know, risky decisions. But she also thinks that she's gonna like get in this car, get the situation figured out, be back at her friend's party. Nobody will be the wiser. But this is the start of her nightmare because it turns out that this boss of her ex had seen her previously at a company function. And when he finds out that she's now single, he was like, immediately, I need her to be here with me, doing sexy, sexy things, whether she wants to or not. Thoughts on this? Oh gosh, guys. Okay. I'm telling you, buckle in, be with me on this one, okay? Listen to all the things I have to say. I love Sam Mariano. This starts out intense and doesn't let up. It's a lot about making decisions in impossible situations. Like, you know, for example, like, do you do something you don't want to do if it means less harm comes to you ultimately, or do you stand on your principles? That sort of a thing. Oh, guys, I had to DNF this. No! I know. But here's the thing. It's a super, super soft DNF. This is when my life went to shit during my read of this book. And I hate being vague, but also I feel like context is important for why I DNF'd this. I also don't want to put all of my business out on the internet. I think you guys get it. Basically, I tried to force myself to read this book while I was going through that shit. And you know what happened instead is that I then associated this book with the stress I was experiencing. And then now I have this terrible association with it. So I'm going to come back to this book. I need all of this to dissipate and get some distance from this situation, and then I'll be able to jump back in. But like for now, I have to DNF it. Next up, I read Quicksilver by Callie Hart. This is a romantasy. It's hate to love. Basically what we have going on here, we in this world have an undying queen. She's been ruling for lots and lots of time. It has led to a dystopia. Basically everyone's divided up into these different like sections, and like some of the sections are not as great as the others. And Saris, our heroine, is in one of those sections. So she has survived by stealing and hiding a very dangerous magic that she is not supposed to have. She makes an ill-advised theft. She makes an ill-advised theft and ends up stealing like part of like a guard's uniform, like one of the pieces off of it. That was an inappropriate gesture. And we're gonna move on from that. She snatches that and then they like figure out that it's her and they're like, you're coming with us. Which is funny because this is starting to sound a lot like Arcana Academy. I'm accusing no one of nothing. I just think it's funny how similar these setups are. This is where things diverge. I swear they're different. She ends up getting snatched, brought to the castle, and they're like, death for you. She's like in the process of dying, like,
wow, that was incredible. Really moving. Give this girl an Oscar.
And then she realizes that she has opened a forbidden gateway because she was like, if I'm going down, you're going down. Boo! And then they fall into this world, or she kind of gets snatched. She gets snatched. I think that's more appropriate. Into this other world, which is where the Fae existed. Saris now is the first person of her kind in a very long time to have crossed over to this world. And I can't remember how to pronounce it, but it's like Yavalia. Avalia. Something like that. Doesn't really matter. So when she gets over here, she kind of makes a ill-advised choice. Once again, Bestie is not very smart, I'm not gonna lie. And she ends up binding herself to a man by the name of King Fisher, who is this like broody Fae warrior who's got these deadly secrets in this blade, and he's like a war captain, and he's like kind of hated and kind of loved. It depends on who you talk to, really. The deal is she has to use her alchemist magic. Remember, I mentioned that she's got some forbidden magic? Yeah, alchemy. So she's gonna do that, like some things for him to basically protect his people, and in return, he will make sure that she survives and also finds her way back home / to her family. My notes at the beginning of this are, this opening feels very generic. A street rat steals something, gets caught, and has to protect the family, blah, blah, blah. And I really took about 30 to 50% of the book before I was really like, oh, this is getting to be more interesting and not quite as tropey. I'm liking this a little bit more. Because, oof, Saris, the girlfriend, is not very smart. She makes multiple dumb decisions in order to get us to the setup that we need to get to, and I find that frustrating. I like a strategic heroine. King Fisher was the bright spot, because although he's kind of like typical broody dark, he was pretty funny. He's very bantery. Things were just infinitely more interesting when he was on page. However, I do feel like tension was broke a little bit too early with these two. It did feel unearned. Like the first like schmexy scene, I was like, oh, so this is where we're putting it. Okay, that's fine. Later on, it was much more satisfying and believable because we had a more emotional component. So it all comes around. Like basically the beginning feels clunky, it feels tropey, and then towards the end, it gets a lot more compelling, it gets a lot more action-packed, the romance becomes more interesting. A couple of things of note that bothered me that have nothing to do with anything, but I just cannot let go of. One, this is a big ol' sausage fest of a book. There is a distressing lack of women in this world. Like this girl has no female friends. The women are either motherly or villains. Those are kind of the two options. Lots of men though. The other thing, the dirty talk in this, I hated it. It felt so out of place because it feels modern. Dirty talk was dumped in. It was jarring. It did not fit the book. Anyways, those are my feelings. The rating is 4 stars. All right, my camera battery is about to die. Let me see how fast I can get through these next two. So next up, Love and Hockey by Monty J. This is an age gap forbidden hockey romance. Did get an ALC of this, which is an advanced listener copy if you're unfamiliar. I think, however, the audio is now officially released. What is this book about? So we have Valor, who is our heroine, and she is raised by a single father because her dad plays hockey. And so this is a big integral part of her life, is like growing up around the team, playing hockey, and it's a very like fight to win type of attitude, especially around all these hockey players. And the thing that she wants most is Bishop. Now, Bishop, he is hockey's golden boy, so he plays on the same team as her dad. He is 8 years older than her, hence the forbidden element. He kind of was like a rookie on the team and was taken under her dad's wing when he first started playing. For all of these reasons, Bishop is like completely off limits. This is a family friend. This is her dad's friend. Like this is not someone she should be lusting after because she's literally known him since she was in middle school. And I will say that 50% of this book takes place when she is in high school or younger. Years of quiet obsession and yearning lead to some blurred lines, some questionable choices, and they have to figure out if this is a mistake or fate. There were elements of this book that worked for me, but the vast majority did not. I think the people that will like this are people that really enjoy a love letter to whiskey, don't mind a massive age gap where she is potentially underage for a large portion of it, and then also like that hockey element. So I think you need to have those three things. Like those would be who I would recommend this to. For me personally, I did not like this. The way this is written, it is so much of them reflecting on stuff. We are in a scene and they're just reflecting and thinking about fully other scenes. And then we're having just like little blips of like what's going on in the present. It just felt like it created a lot of distance from the present timeline of what was going on. I didn't feel that yearning and pining. The romance definitely abruptly jumped ahead because I was like, okay, we're gonna really take our time with these younger years. She's gonna be pining and yearning for him, but he knows it's inappropriate. All of the sudden, we went from Bishop barely even noticing. Like the prior scene was him going like, I think Valor actually might have a crush on me, but also she's an awkward teenager. To the next scene was like them up against a wall and it was like, fuck it, it's worth it.
Wow, that was truly majestic. Surely that has clinched my Oscar nomination.
Where did that come from? We barely even knew that you liked her. The other thing that really was frustrating with this romance is that Valor very much feels her age, which is great because it feels age appropriate. But the problem is when you have an age gap romance, that kind of makes it uncomfortable. It kind of makes it icky. I don't like it. It's a little bit more believable if she acts a lot older, that they're kind of like, oh, maturity wise, we're on the same plane. Even though we're at different places in our lives, like we really see eye to eye on a lot. And I felt like she was very explosive, very reactive, extremely immature, and it just made the romance feel yucky for a large part of the book. Also had a ton of girl hate. It felt outdated. It felt very much like not like the other girls. I'm tired of that. Let's get rid of that. What are we doing with that in the year 2025, the year of Lady Gaga? Another frustrating thing, all of the characters have the most tragic backstories you could possibly imagine. Abuse, neglect, loss, troubled family members, alcoholism, mental health issues, you name it, every single character has something. I don't know why I clicked my rings together. It just felt overwhelming and it started to lose meaning. It didn't have grit. It didn't feel grounded. It just felt one note. And I didn't feel like any of it was explored very meaningfully. I think a lot of it was used as like plot devices. Ew, don't do that. I feel like I've ranted about this book. I really did not get along with this book. I can get why other people would like this. I think there's just so much that I didn't like that personally I have to rate this a 2-star. This is absolutely a personal taste thing. Like, this isn't a horrible book. This is just very much not my book. Like, at all. Which is unfortunate because I love Monty J. So sad. Let's move on. I'm heated, guys. All right. So next up, we have Hero by Claire Kent, and this is an apocalyptic romance. It's opposites attract. It's dislike to love. It's single dad. Oh, it's so good, you guys. In this world, an asteroid hit the planet, caused all this climate change. Society has officially collapsed. We are 5 years out from that initial asteroid strike, and survival is just kind of like all everyone's doing at this point. Our heroine initially was at college, and obviously like those dreams are no longer happening. Like, college isn't happening. And initially she was at her stepdad's cabin with a ton of family members, like her stepdad's brother, her mom, her sister, her grandparents, like everybody's at this cabin. But now we are down to 3 people: our heroine, our hero, and his daughter. So Zed is our hero, and he is her ex-step-uncle. I mean, everyone's passed, so they're not really related. But like in the before times, this was her stepdad's brother. And she never really liked him because he was just so much the antithesis of what she was at that time. She's a hard worker. She's trying to go to college, better herself. She has dreams of being an astronaut. And he's just kind of this like slothy, douchey frat bro, hooking up with all these gals, drinking beer, watching sports. Like, he just doesn't seem like he's really doing anything with his life. He doesn't seem to have a lot of drive. But this is who she's paired up with, and they've made a pretty decent go of things. Obviously they're the last ones surviving, but their supplies are dwindling and danger is starting to grow in the area, and so they're forced to move out of this cabin that's provided them safety for so long, and they need to figure out where they need to go. But in the midst of all of this, we're starting to have some feelings. And this is not a great time because feelings lead to risky decisions and dangerous behaviors. This series is just a comfort read for me because I love this world. I love these stories. Even like a 3-star read, like I'm still having a good time while I'm reading it. I love these like unexpected stories, these heroines falling for these men that they probably wouldn't have ever encountered or met or have fallen in love with if it had not been for these circumstances. I just love following their journeys, and also the hair that they absolutely must French braid in every single book, because that's what hair looks like in post-apocalyptic times. This one reminded me a lot of the last book, although the hero feels very different. There is like a lot of similarities with kind of the setup of it. The heroine, I will say, initially, she was a bit frustrating because she really just wants to be independent and is having a hard time kind of accepting the circumstances. But oh my goodness, like the more you get into the book, the more I was just like, this is actually a heroine that I have felt like the most similar to out of this entire series. She kind of like cracks jokes when she's uncomfortable. She's a little bit standoffish, struggles to connect with people, hyper independent. Yeah, I will admit, I do have a stubborn streak as well. Maybe I don't like that in her because I don't like that in myself. She's not very traditionally maternal, very anxious about relationships and survival. But once she makes a decision about something, then she's like determined. She's like, we are going forward. I know what I'm doing now. That's very much how my brain works as well. I saw a lot of myself in her, so I really liked her. The hero also is someone that kind of grows on you because you hear the heroine's description of him and how much she doesn't like him and how much she kind of just thinks he's like, ugh. That's not really who you want to get stuck with in the after times. He's even in the after times, he's like kind of making some decisions where you're like, dude, what are you doing? But he really proves himself. Well, I was rudely interrupted by my camera dying. So I did use up that entire battery. I did have to take a knee there for a second and let this bad boy charge. So if things look different, that's why. In summation of what I just discussed, I feel like the hero and heroine really grew on me. They had good character arcs. They really created this very interesting family unit for themselves, and their bonds felt very deep in the way that they interacted. And even though in classic Claire Kent fashion, she did have spice earlier on, she's still able to hold the tension throughout the book. Them not fully emotionally being ready to give in, to like give this relationship their all. They always have like one foot out, be thinking about survival first and foremost, and sometimes that means that we don't get to have the romantic relationships that we would like to. Really has this sense of like longing and desire for connection. And also with the relationship, one thing that I thought was really cool that I feel like I have not really seen in many books, the heroine is a virgin before she gets together with the hero. Nobody makes a big deal about it. And she's just like, oh, so that's what the big deal is about. Usually we have to make so much pomp and circumstance about it being someone's first time. Anyway, I thought that was cool. The third act I was genuinely scared for everyone's survival. Oh, I was stressed. I was sweating. Intuitively, you know things have to end in an HEA, but you're like, oh boy, it's gonna be painful to get there. One odd moment that I did want to flag because it threw me so far out of the story, I was in the stratosphere and I was thinking way too much about this. So here's another of Baron's brain bugs or whatever the heck we call these things. At one point, there is a bear that's stalking around their camp. So they do end up having to dispatch of this bear. It happens like semi-close to their cabin. We're in survival mode, right? We don't harvest anything from the bear despite unaliving it. So I was like, okay, kind of feel like we've got some things like meat, a pelt. There's some things that we could be harvesting. Both of them really don't seem to like getting rid of animals. I'm like, okay, so maybe too traumatized, but then like move it away from the cabin, please. Because the decomp, oh, can you imagine the smell? Can you imagine the smell? And that's all I could think about is like how stinky smelly that cabin would be. Because if you've ever smelled like animal decomp like on the side of the road or something like that, like an animal that's gotten hit by a car, foul. Disgusting. I just couldn't stop thinking about that. But otherwise, I was glued to the book, so I did give it a 4.5 stars. Half a star off for that nasty decomposing bear. Oh, disgusting. All right, next up, I read Come Out by Alexia Onyx, and this is an erotic supernatural. Do I want to call this a romance? No, I don't. It's an erotica with supernatural elements. Setup of this. In the beginning of the book, our hero, Aiden, his sister, twin sister actually, unalived herself, and he decides to get revenge because it was due to cyberbullying, which he finds out about at the beginning of the book, and then he was like, I'm gonna get those boys. He ends up dying in the process of trying to unalive these boys, and now his spirit is tied to the house. I know. And the new tenants move in and he becomes fixated on one of them because he kind of sees that mentally she's in pain. He's like, I need to help her. That girl is Sky. She kind of feels unseen by everyone. She doesn't have a lot of people in her life and she has a lot of maladaptive tendencies such as using drugs and alcohol or self-harming. So trigger warnings out the yin yang for this bad boy. She ends up catching on along with her roommates that this place is in fact haunted. The roommates are like, we're out of here. No. And she's like, you know what? Kind of feel at home here. And it just might have a little something to do with the ghost. This is another one that I got an ALC for. I think this one is coming out very soon, if it hasn't already by the time you're seeing this. I was very intrigued. I was like, a ghost, a new tenant. This is kind of fun. It seems like it could get emotional. I was liking that both hero and heroine are either bi or pan. I couldn't quite tell. It never is fully like described, but it's one of those. We have plus size rep and the depression isn't tied to that. So that's great. The heroine's plus size and she's not like, oh, gross, I hate my body. She's happy with that. She's just not the rest of her life. And so I felt like, oh, we have so many fun, supernatural things to explore. We've got so many emotional components. But what do we do with all that? Nothing, because it's an erotica. So it was all a setup for sex. Once I was kind of like, okay, going in with this is just an erotica, I still did feel like it was a little bit too long. I think as in a novella, this would have been spectacular. So good. Because it's like a little bit insta-lovey. And instead of talking about things, they're just like, ooh, what if we just had a spicy encounter? What if I ate that meow meow real quick on the stairs? You know, that kind of stuff. What pissed me off though, and I don't think I can talk about it without spoiling the book. So I'm going to put some timestamps in. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to do that because I'm lazy. I'm going to hold my hand up. When you see my hand go down, I'm no longer talking about spoilers. If you would like to read this and have a fun little spicy supernatural time, skip past this part. I'll put my hand down when I'm done talking about spoilers. Spoilers start now. Okay, our hero, because he's a ghost, has very limited forms of communication. So sometimes he'll just like knock stuff over or like write on the mirror. Like he doesn't have the ability to readily communicate with our heroine. And she is doing something ill-advised. She is making a destructive decision, a destructive choice, and he tries to prevent that. She gets mad at him, and this whole thing is framed as him not honoring her bodily autonomy. The fuck? He's trying to help her, and that is framed as bad. Yeah, okay. And then the ending is fully spoiling. She dies because she unalives herself. And it's like, shrug, she didn't have anything to live for. Everything that she loves is on the other side. No. And then they're like haunting the house together, and that's supposed to be an HEA? Absolutely the fuck not. Oh, this made me rage. I was livid at that ending. It was fun and spicy until then. Livid at the ending. Anyways, for those reasons, 2 stars. And that's for the road. Right, next up, I have Ruthless Creatures, and this is by J.T. Geisinger. This is a mafia romance. It's kind of light on the mafia because she's technically an outsider. 5 years ago, our heroine's fiance disappeared without a trace, like on their wedding day after he went like hiking, and she just never got answers. They never found the body. So this 5-year anniversary is like when he's legally considered dead, and she's really just trying to come to terms with the fact that she's not getting answers. She's not finding out what happened to her fiance. This is when a stranger named Cage moves in next door, and he's like dark and broody and magnetic, and he's clearly hiding something because he very abruptly moves in next door and just keeps kind of turning up in the same places that she is. And despite her instinct saying like this man is dangerous and him being very unfriendly and not very welcoming, the chemistry is impossible for them to ignore. And she's about to learn the truth about why Cage is there, because he's been sent to collect a debt that involves her. So I did this as a buddy read with Lynn from Lynn's Romance Library. She and I have been talking about wanting to read this book together since probably January. She had wanted to do it as a reread because it was an all-time fave. I was excited. I wanted to read this book, but I was very nervous because, as we know, I'm a picky bitch. That would just suck to be like, ba-da-ba-ba-ba, not loving it. But good news, friends, I loved it. I loved this book and I'm so excited to read more. But first, what did I love about this one? This book, I felt like handled humor and melancholy emotions perfectly. It was so well balanced, but it's not a lighthearted book because mafia. I loved the dialogue. I loved the heroine's friend Sloane. I'm so excited that her book is next. These two talking together, Lynn and I were cracking up because the heroine from this book is Lynn and I am Sloane. We very much saw our own friendship in these two. There was definitely instant chemistry, instant connection. You could feel it. It leaped off the page. And although they don't immediately act on it, you can sense it from like the first time they interact. Also really liked that we stayed in the heroine's POV for a while, so we kept what's going on with Cage and the secrets that he's keeping for a while. I loved the hero. The hero, love. He's so dark broody, you can tell he's a mafia man. However, he is so concerned about consent. You could feel him holding himself back, but he's right there. Like the second you're like, let's do this, he's like, say less. The way I described him to Lynn was spring-loaded, but he's not pushing her. And it definitely feels like some of the kind of like more BDSM elements that get introduced into their relationship feel really mutual, feel really well integrated because it feels like something both of them are really wanting. I thought the twist was like a little bit predictable, like I have seen it before. However, I still liked it because I did feel like it rounded out the story. It made sense for the story. Overall, I just found the writing in this to be an absolute breath of fresh air. It was like so well written. The characters are so well thought out. The plot is well thought out. I don't really have any complaints. It's not quite a full 5-star for me, so I'm sitting with a 4.5, but I really like this. I cannot wait to read the next book. I think Lynn and I are actually just gonna do that next book as our next buddy read. All right, last one. We have Fantasma, and this one is by Kaylee Smith. So this is a romantasy with kind of like a haunted games thing. Also a ghost man. We have Ophelia, and her sister and her lose their mother at the beginning of the book, and they also very quickly after find out that they are in debt. They're about to lose their family home, so they need to come up with the money to save this house. This is where Fantasma enters the scene. So it's a deadly traveling haunted house with competitions where there's only one winner, and the winner gets to claim the prize of like a single like wish or grant from a devil. I don't remember. Look, they get something out of it and most people need money. Her sister is like, actually, I'm gonna troubleshoot this. So she ends up entering the competition and she ends up writing a note that's like, la, don't come looking for me. I'll be back in a little bit. And Ophelia's like, I can put 2 and 2 together. She went to Fantasma, so I'm now gonna go in after her, which is objectively a dumb decision because there can only be one winner and a lot of people die in this. She has to face now quite literally her nightmares. And there's all these rival players that are willing to other people to win. This is how she ends up striking a very dangerous bargain. The man by the name of Blackwell offers to help guide her in exchange for 10 years of her life. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but that's kind of the gist. So, my thoughts on this one. The spooky vibes, yes, we liked them. The characters I cared about, absolutely not a singular one about them. The heroine was frustratingly naive, like she was charging into a deadly competition after her sister, where there can only be one winner. Like, girlfriend, what were you thinking? And then she was also like on people's case for not being team players. Bitch, there can only be one winner. Why would you be a team player? The romance is serviceable. It is a fun, smutty book for sure. It's not as smutty as I thought it was gonna be based on how horny people made this book sound, but it's like, it's good. It did feel a bit shallow, I think, and just kind of felt like it was like stuck in a loop because it would be like brutal trial that he helps her out with, they hook up, and then they kind of like do something to get under each other's skin, and they're like, now we're mad at each other, but then he helps her out with the next competition, just like rinse and repeat. Trials were entertaining, and they definitely had very deadly consequences, but I just never really felt in fear for the heroine, and I never felt in fear for her sister either. I also didn't have any feelings about her sister. In general, I feel like the competition just wrapped up a little bit too perfectly, a little bit too cleanly, especially given all these complicating factors that could have made it bittersweet or a little bit more complicated. It just didn't really have a very satisfying ending, especially because it had one of my fantasy icks, and I don't know why I'm so aggressive with pointing at you this entire video. I'm gonna spoil things. Okay, I'm gonna hold my hand up. So for the people that have watched it, Girl, what are you talking about? For the people that have read it, same thing as last time. Hand goes down, then you know I'm not talking about spoilers. Spoilers are starting now. So she basically was ready to give up everything, her life, her powers, for this man to live for love. Fuck that. I'm so sick of that being in fantasies. Girl, don't do it. Okay, for all my complaints about it, is this a fun read? Yes. Yes, the trials were fun, the atmosphere was fun, the house was spooky. I don't think that this is anything special. I don't think that this is anything to really write home about. I would recommend this for the girlies that liked Caraval, but for everybody else, it's just okay. Rating of 3 stars. All right, guys, we made it through. My throat is so raw. I am going to have to suffer through the sweating of drinking hot tea in this warm weather. I would love to hear from you. If you've read any of these books, let me know your thoughts. If you're planning to read any of them, I would love to know that too. Also, let me know what some of your favorite reads were from this month. What were you loving? What were you hating? Did you DNF a lot? What's the mood? How were you guys feeling after the end of August? With all of that, thank you so much for being here. Don't forget to comment below. Don't forget to like this video if you do like it too. Don't forget that. And if you're here, if you've made it to this part of the video, you know you liked it at least a little bit. Don't forget to subscribe, especially if this is your first time here. Hello, I never introduced myself. My name is actually Baron, and I would love for you to stick around and subscribe and enjoy some more videos with me. But if not, that's totally cool too. No pressure, no pressure. But I really, really do hope I see you in my next video. Bye-bye.